Hey movie fans, so I just saw Karate Kid Legends and I have been super looking forward to this one for multiple reasons. First and foremost, I am a massive Karate Kid fan. I grew up watching the Karate Kid movies and the Rocky movies on basically a loop. I love almost all those movies, even the not as good ones. I still even have a place in my heart for Karate Kid 3. And I rewatched that one not too long ago, and that one did not hold up nearly as well as I remember, but I still enjoy it. And also, I'm a big Cobra Kai fan. Cobra Kai has really been carrying the baton for the Karate Kid franchise over the past few years. First on YouTube Red, and then it really blew up once it hit Netflix. Right around the time that they were talking about the final season, and I feel like it was in between the sections, they're like, we're doing a new Karate Kid movie, but this time we're gonna introduce Ralph Macchio's Daniel Larusso and Jackie Chan's Mr. Han. They're finally gonna meet, and I was super ecstatic because I'm actually a fan of the Jaden Smith Karate Kid movie. I know people are like, it's kung fu. I'm like, it's a good movie. That's all I care about more than anything else. So I was really looking forward to those two characters meeting, and Cobra Kai set an unusually high bar of what I expect for legacy sequels for a franchise. I absolutely adore Cobra Kai, and I really love how that show ended. So I just wanted a good Karate Kid movie. Didn't necessarily have to follow the events of Cobra Kai or continue where they basically handed off the baton for this, because this is, I believe, 5 years after the events of Cobra Kai. I was just hoping for a good Karate Kid movie, and overall, I walked away pretty happy. This movie is a little flawed. It's not the best Karate Kid movie, but as a fan of the franchise, it hit certain beats and certain notes that I was happy with, but also did some new and fresh things that I also really enjoyed. But most importantly, there's characters that I really enjoyed more than anything that helped me overlook the flaws of the movie. So let's talk about the good first, because there's a lot of good here. First and foremost, Ben Wang as Lee, our new Karate Kid, Kung Fu Kid, whatever. He's a mixture of the two teachings, so to speak. He is so charismatic and likable. You almost just immediately gravitate towards this guy. He's just got this natural charisma that you enjoy being around him. He comes across like a good kid. He seems like, off this one movie alone, oh, he's going to have a future in the industry. He just has that kind of naturally charismatic personality. He's got that charm to him. He's just a cool character, but at the same time, he's not a carbon copy of Daniel LaRusso. He's not whatever Hilary Swank's character was. He's not Dre Parker from the newer Karate Kid. Newer, it was like 15 years ago. It was like 15 years ago, God. Oh. He's not any of those characters. He stands on his own. It's an interesting dynamic this time around of, it's not a, you've got to train to get good. It's, he's already a great fighter, but he's got to get to that next level. It's interesting. It's not a starting from nothing. He's already got a solid foundation. He's already got the Kung Fu. Now he's got to learn the karate. But all that means nothing if you don't care about the character and you really like Lee. Ben does a great job in this role, and immediately when this movie was done, I was like, I need to see him in more things because he just has this natural likability to him. The other character that I really liked in this is an interesting one because he's all but completely hidden from the trailers, and that is Joshua Jackson's character. Now, he's basically a pizza shop owner with an interesting past that he's kind of bringing that past back, or he's looking to use Lee in a certain way to get something, not in a malicious way, but he's hoping to form a partnership. And that's kind of the first half of the movie that the trailers aren't showing you. The trailers are basically like, oh, look at the greatest Karate Kid senseis teaming up to teach this new kid. And that's the back half of this movie. And we'll talk about it more in the negatives. This is a two-halfer movie. The first half is very different than the second half. It's like they had two separate stories that they wanted to tell, and they kind of just threw them in the pot and kind of hoped for the best. And overall, I was happy with the mixture, but it does come across a little messy in the kitchen, if that makes sense. But circling back to Joshua Jackson's character, he was naturally likable. He ribs and jokes with Ben Wang's character. They had this natural funny rapport. When Ben starts to be interested in his daughter, there's a little bit of dynamic there because he's the overprotective dad. It's the cliche that you see in other Karate Kid movies, but it works here. Karate Kid's built on its cliches. You kind of need those cliches. That's what makes the franchise what it is. Now, a big crux of the marketing, like I said, has been resting on the shoulders of Daniel LaRusso returning to the Karate Kid franchise and finally meeting Jackie Chan's Mr. Han. when they are actually on screen together, it is so much fun. Now, if we really want to pick nits here, Jackie Chan's Mr. Han is drastically different than his 2010 version of the Karate Kid. He's much more jokey and your stereotypical Jackie Chan fun-loving character, more so than the Mr. Han. However, I will chalk that up to it's been many, many years. Maybe he has mellowed out in his older age. That's just what I'm going to chalk it up to. But if you're expecting him to be exactly the same character from when you saw him last, it's different. But I like the scenes with him and Daniel together. I wish we got more of Ralph Macchio's Daniel Larusso. He's not in it a ton. Like I said, there's the first half story and then there's the second half story, and they kind of overarch everything at the end, but I just wish we could have gotten more Daniel LaRusso, just because I really, really like the character, and I like Karate Kid, and I like what he was on Cobra Kai. However, one of the things that actually did surprise me and put a very pleasant smile on my face, that was a welcome surprise, was the fact that at the beginning of the year, in my big, huge 2025 movie predictions video, I said that this movie, Karate Kid Legends, would have 0 Cobra Kai references whatsoever, and that it would try and stand on its own movie. But I'm gonna predict that this will have 0 connections to the Netflix and YouTube Red. Y'all remember the YouTube Red days? It will have 0 connections to Cobra Kai. Thankfully, I was proven wrong on that. I'm not going to say what, but there is a very fun Cobra Kai Easter egg references. For fans of the show, you will enjoy it. It's a very obvious Easter egg, but it's a cool one nonetheless. I didn't think we would actually get, but it was fun to see on the big screen. However, as much as I enjoyed this movie, it's not without its flaws. Like I keep hinting at, the first half of the movie is drastically different than the second half. The first half is kind of the inverse of the Karate Kid formula of, instead of the older mentor teaching a younger fighter, it's the younger fighter mentoring an older fighter in a specific way. And I actually like that story direction more. It was interesting. Not to say I didn't enjoy the second half, where you get more of your cliche Karate Kid stuff. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But the second half of this movie remembers, oh crap, we have to be a Karate Kid movie, and basically goes at your stereotypical Karate Kid movie at 2x speed to meet a specific runtime, going, holy crap, slow down guys, you are blazing through this at super speed here. It was a little jarring, and with the jarring was some interesting editing choices. We'll go with that. Because this is a Sony movie, I think they looked at the previous movies with specifically Into the Spider-Verse and like, you know what? What if we edited a Karate Kid movie like a Spider-Verse movie? I'm going, that's an interesting idea on paper. It didn't necessarily translate to a live action adaptation. There were some choices made in the edit for this movie. Not awful, but weird and unnatural for a Karate Kid movie. I will also say, this is like a 90-minute movie, and it probably could have been an hour 45 or an hour 50. Just give this a little bit more time, because the second half, we're going at a breakneck speed. We could have slowed down a little bit more. We could have had the final tournament be a little bit longer. You're going super fast through all of that, which with the tournament, you always have your cliche bad guy here, and the bad guy in this is a Karate Kid bad guy. He's shallow, undeveloped, and uninteresting, but that's par for the course for Karate Kid. You can't say that Mike Barnes or Chosen were necessarily the most interesting villains in Karate Kid 3 or 2. They didn't become interesting until many, many years later in Cobra Kai. I'm gonna cut the villain some slack here, just because that's the nature of the beast when it comes to Karate Kid. They don't always have the most fascinating villains. They're just evil for evil's sake. Also, speaking of characters, there's like this weird, goofy sidekick that's teaching Lee calculus. And I was like, what? Why are you here? But also, sticking with Karate Kid lore and cliches, that's par for the course, because Daniel LaRusso also has this friend that's only in like 2 scenes in the original movie, and we never bring him up, and he kind of looks suspiciously like a Jonas brother in the early 2000s. That's a reference that I'm gonna make now, but overall, I actually really liked Karate Kid Legends. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It is kind of messy, but the characters are likable enough that I'm like, okay, I would like to see more in this franchise. I would like to see more of Ben Wang. I thought he was great. I want to see more of Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso, please. It was fun. It was a Karate Kid movie, and it was one of the better ones. If we take the nostalgia goggles off, some of the sequels are not as good as you'll remember, but I still enjoy them. Overall, this was a fun movie. It's not the best movie, but I really, really enjoyed it for what it was, which was a harmless Karate Kid movie. Not the best, doesn't reach the heights of some of the best moments of Cobra Kai, but it doesn't need to. It didn't have 6 years to do the quality of Cobra Kai. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Karate Kid Legends? Are you a Karate Kid fan? What's your favorite Karate Kid movie? Who's your favorite protagonist from a Karate Kid movie or show? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below, as I like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.